Aaron with the Steelers. This division, the AFC North, he is probably the third best quarterback.
Maybe he wanted that new challenge because maybe ayahuasca gave him a little bit too much peace.
And that's why our official recommendation is to cap your ayahuasca trips to Central America at 3 and not 9. NBA commissioner.
I mean, if we were going into a Super Bowl and it was Packers against Steelers, you guys would be celebrating that. We're going to have to get to the point where people are accustomed to tuning into the finals because it's the two teams that deserve to be there, and it's the best basketball.
So easy to say the constraint is the city size and the market of the city.
Yeah.
But that's not true. The constraint is the story of the team. We're each going to pull 3 professional athletes from this draft board that I've got up here. Give us your worst weekend hangout ever with 3 athletes from this list, and then explain why.
Here's a curveball.
Oh, it's a slow news day. Nothing absolutely insane going on in the world on Twitter. No, nothing crazy like the most powerful person in the world versus the most rich person in the world beefing on Twitter to send markets spiraling into global catastrophe. Pretty chill. How you feeling, Mike?
They just need spotters. You know, when you go to the gym and you are bench pressing heavy weight, you don't just do that without anybody looking over you just in case you do something horrible. Same should be true when you have a heavy following on Twitter that has a lot of influence. You should just have a spotter.
That is a fantastic idea. Twitter spotter for people who have a lot of influence and can really ruin my day with a couple of tweets. Also, my retirement portfolio can be completely obliterated. So, but do you know what's funny is probably the most anticipated player and the most anticipated signing of this offseason in the NFL decided to drop the news that they are signing with a new team in the midst of this crazy turmoil. So it's actually, at the time of us recording this, it's actually flying under the radar a little bit. But here's the big news, Mike. Big news.
Let's see.
Aaron Rodgers is officially going to sign a 1-year deal with the Pittsburgh Steelers.
That's nuts. How much is it? 1 year for how much?
1 year. I don't know, but he did say like in interviews and stuff, "Oh, I don't even care. I would play for just $10 million, which is like a pathetic quarterback contract."
Yeah.
So I don't know what it is. I bet you I feel like it's probably like in the 30s, maybe for 1 year. Or something,
That's so cool.
Something like that.
They have a great QB room. What? They have so many.
Who do they have? Let's see. They have Mason Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer. No, they had Justin Fields, and now he's gone. Who else?
He's gone.
Oh, yeah. No, they did have an interesting one. Kenny Pickett, who's now also gone to the Browns. So they drafted. No, they did have a great QB room or an interesting one. They did.
Yeah, they did.
Where you stand? Where you stand on Aaron Rodgers? What's your Aaron Rodgers stance?
I know he gets a lot of controversy, but I love Aaron Rodgers. I think he's great for kind of giving a fresh perspective, not only on the game, but just like he's a very original thinker. He's not someone who gets influenced by groupthink.
Right.
Okay. Whether or not you agree or disagree with stuff that he says or does, he is an independent thinker, which is very rare. And especially in someone in his position with his amount of following and influence, for him to be an independent thinker, even at the expense of himself sometimes. It's a good example for people. You may not agree with what he's saying, but the fact that he's not just following along with whatever he's doing and kind of thinking for himself and doing what he knows works for him, I really like and respect.
Yeah, he's also like the most interesting guy in the NFL, I feel like. I don't know. Everything he does makes news, and I'm just like, ooh, what is Aaron Rodgers saying about that? Did you watch the documentary on Netflix of his, the 3-part documentary?
No.
It was actually kind of cool. What is it called? Enigma. It was called Enigma.
Oh,
and it was a 3-episode, and it was about him going to the Jets and then popping his Achilles and then the rehab process and then going down to like South America to do ayahuasca. He's done ayahuasca like 10 times or something like that. He's just like a really enlightened guy, you know?
Maybe he's overdoing the ayahuasca. Maybe like 3 times was the sweet spot. And then after that, it's diminishing returns.
Yeah. Well, What is the sweet spot for you think it's three
I think it's whatever he did to get back-to-back MVPs, and then one more is you overdid it. So
a little
just
bit
stay at where you were.
too much.
Yeah.
But the documentary series was actually pretty interesting. So then it went back because he was like he's like the kind of guy that had such a huge chip on his shoulder because he came out of Northern California, kind of the Chico, California area, not that highly recruited. He ended up going to community college or junior college, was great there. And then ended up going to Cal. But then he slid in the draft. He thought he was going to go early. He really wanted to go to the 49ers, which was like his hometown team. Got passed up, slid, finally picked at the end of the first rounds. And so he's always had like this chip on his shoulder mentality. That's the thing. Do you think that people can ever lose that? Like the chip on the shoulder?
What a interesting,
Yeah.
I don't think so. I think once you get that, once you felt that sort of disrespect and feeling slighted as an athlete or whatever your feel is, once you felt that and tapped into the motivation and fire that you can when you are in that mindset,
Yeah.
you never lose the ability to tap back into that, whether or not, it's like, for example, like Baker Mayfield, right?
Yeah.
One of the biggest chip on your shoulder guys.
True.
And then he gets drafted number 1 overall. Okay.
Yeah.
No one's doubting you anymore. Everyone believes in you. Okay. But he still had the chip on his shoulder mentality and play and attitude. So it's I think it's hard to lose. And I think it's something that you don't want to lose. So like people like Baker hung on to that because that was like,
true.
Well, the chip is what got me here to where technically on the outside, I don't really have a chip anymore because everyone believes, but I'm going to hold on to that.
Yeah. That's actually, it's like when you, hear about the Patriots during the dynasty, how they were at the top of the NFL and like the obvious NFL favorites, and everybody, thought, oh, look how good the Patriots are. But Bill Belichick was able to create or at least enforce this idea within the building and within the team. Like, we're the underdogs. Everyone's against us. Patriots versus the world. And they were able to have that, even though technically it was not literally true.
Yeah.
And there's like this concept of literal truth versus hypothetical truth. Hear me out. Okay. Hear me out.
Careful. You're getting into my truth territory.
I know. We're getting into, well, that's my truth. Okay.
No, I'm very curious.
Okay. So the hypothetical truth versus the literal truth. And sometimes the hypothetical truth is actually more beneficial to you. So, for example, there's kind of the saying, porcupines can throw their quills, right? That they can throw their quills and kind of shoot at you from a distance. Porcupines can. That is not a literal truth. Porcupines can't actually do that, okay? However, you as a person would probably benefit in your life from thinking that and believing that and acting accordingly as to sort of avoid porcupines and to not get close to them or agitate porcupines, because then you avoid ever getting poked with the quills, even though they're not necessarily throwing it at you. So the hypothetical truth or the abstract truth, which is actually not a good term because it's not the truth, you benefit from believing it. What do you think? It's kind of that. You benefit from believing you're an underdog, chip on the shoulder.
Yes, absolutely. Okay. And I would like to talk about belief in a whole nother second. But first, this is what the greats do. The greats even cultivate the chip on your shoulder, even when they necessarily never really had it. They'll cultivate it. Michael Jordan in The Last Dance talks about how he pins up bad whatever reviews or criticisms of himself and his play from articles, whatever, reporters, puts them in his locker and gets into that mindset before he goes to practice, gets into that mindset before he plays, because the chip on your shoulder mindset is such a powerful one that even when it's not real, guys are looking for ways to make it in their mind, to get to that spot in their mind.
I actually have a kind of a thing like this. So, in high school, when I played corner, it was like junior Jesuit high school. I earned it. I became the starting corner, starting at Jesuit as a junior, big time.
Crazy.
First game or maybe second game, I lost my spot. I got pulled because of a couple mistakes, which I still to this day hold that they weren't actually my fault. we were in cover 3 and I kept getting yelled at for a tiny little 3-yard out being caught. Not really my fault. But I got pulled. 16 years old, pulled, benched the entire season. I didn't play again until I was a senior. And so the rest of my life so far, my football career, and it's bled actually into my entire life, is I have this, maybe fear is not the right word. Well, maybe it's a fear. I have this fear of always losing my spot, of always being replaced. And I had that at Hotchkiss when I was a PG and like clearly a starter. And at Georgetown, I had that all the way up until my senior year when I was like captain of the team, wearing the 35 jersey, all league player. I thought deep into my mind, every single practice that I was at risk for losing my spot. I even thought that in Germany, like every single practice in Germany.
That's so crazy.
And all the way. And it never, ever went away my entire football career. And it came from that. And then that did make me practice really, really hard and compete really, really hard all the time and into practice. So I did benefit from thinking that. But okay, what do you think about that?
What do you think about this? Yes, there's so much benefit to that. Do you think that obviously it gave you such an edge in terms of the motivation, but do you think there's a double edge to that, to where it tenses you up, to where you're actually not playing as free as you could have because there's a little bit of fear? And this is actually, I have more to say about this in general.
My answer to your question is yes. That's what I was going to say. The whole chip on your shoulder thing, like you said, it's a good thing. And I agree, but I think that people have to be able to get to the point where they can like tap in and tap out of it. You know, where it's not like you still have that driving factor that you can turn on when need be, but you don't have it all the time, because I could never turn it off. And I think it would be nice to have turned it off, because then I could play, a little bit more free and like a little bit more confident at times,
Very interesting. Now, here's a coaching philosophy thing of coaches who kind of purposely instill this fear into their players.
Yeah.
I think is not as productive as they think it is.
Right.
Who almost overdo the competition in the room thing to where you could lose your spot any day. Yeah. I think that there is a big point of diminishing return. Like, yes, there needs to be competition where it's like, I got to fight for my spot and fight to maintain my spot, but I can't be looking over my shoulder every play.
Yeah.
And like, for example, when coaches do this thing where they will have like 2 quarterbacks, to play one first half, play one second half, or like the first couple of games again, like first couple of games of the season to do that. Horrible, so stupid. You are capping people off because you are putting in artificially a fear in their head and limiting their ability to play free and play loose, which is, if you're a coach and don't understand the benefit and how important it is to get guys in a place where they feel like they're in flow and they're playing loose, you're an idiot, period.
I absolutely 100%, because you can't like, okay, a position competition within fall camp or whatever it is, good.
Yeah.
But then you cannot be having to look over your shoulder all the time and think, if I make one mistake, I'm going to be pulled and I'm going to lose my spot, because then you're playing a little bit not to mess up and not to lose your spot, as opposed to reaching your full potential.
And some of the biggest plays in sports are plays where guys take risks.
Yes.
And you can only take risks when you have a certainty in your spot, knowing I could take the risk and it might not pay out, but I'm not going to get pulled and ruin my whole season. Like,
yes, I think that's a great, like, just for example, like as a linebacker, sometimes you see an open gap where technically, okay, you shouldn't shoot that on the backside, but you know what? I think I might be able to get it. And if you do good, it's a 5-yard TFL. And it's a great play. If you miss, well, you didn't do your assignment. So shame on you. And hey, we're going to get somebody else on there. So it's a great point. You got to be able to play free. And so I do think that there is a detriment to having that type of mentality all the time. But at the same time, there's also, the obvious benefits of seeing people who play with that chip on their shoulder. I think it's interesting, Aaron Rodgers being with the Steelers, because the AFC North that he is in here, like this division, the Browns suck, but the Bengals, the Steelers, and the Ravens, this is like kind of the most hard-nosed division in football. Yeah. And I think it's the other quarterbacks in this division that he's going to be playing against. Okay, Browns, we don't know who it's going to be. Maybe Shedeur Sanders, maybe Joe Flacco, whatever. But the other quarterbacks in the division are Joey Burrow and Lamar Jackson. So now he's in a division where he is probably the third best quarterback at this point, which I think is new territory for him because he's always been the best quarterback in his division. Like I don't know if he's going to be able to get out of that division and get into the playoffs, but
maybe that's what he wanted. Maybe he wanted that new challenge. Because like he was always the best, and maybe ayahuasca gave him a little bit too much peace. Here's the problem when you do too much ayahuasca: you get an ego death. And guess what? You need your ego to compete. You need to get you can't completely lose your ego. Maybe that's what happened when you do too much.
And that's why our official recommendation is to cap your ayahuasca trips to Central America at 3 and not 9, because then you end up in the AFC North. What do you think about Mike Tomlin, though? Okay, so Mike Tomlin is like really cool guy, and actually I watched the in-season Hard Knocks of the AFC North last year where we got like a good insight in him. Really like him, players coach, awesome guy, Super Bowl winning coach. But his whole big thing, and the thing that everyone's like, oh, he's such a Hall of Fame coach, is that he's never had a losing season. So, but so many of those, especially recently, have been like 9-8.
Because he's playing not to lose. You're not playing to win.
Exactly.
He's playing to protect. See, I never had a losing season. See? But to get a winning season, you have to take some shots that maybe won't pay out.
Yeah. Well, maybe Aaron Rodgers will bring those shots. I do think it is kind of cool though how they like basically trusted Aaron Rodgers, because everyone was confused in the draft. Why are the Steelers not drafting a quarterback? Why they don't have a obvious starting quarterback? And they ended up drafting the kid Will Howard from Ohio State, like in the 6th round, like a clear backup quarterback. Yeah. This is before we knew about Aaron Rodgers. Obviously, there were rumors, but it kind of sounds like Aaron Rodgers and Mike Tomlin made like a handshake deal, or like, hey, I promise you I'm going to come sign with you guys. Like, don't worry about the draft. I'm going to come sign. And I do like that they and everyone on the outside, like in the media, was, what the hell are the Steelers doing? I like that those guys kind of kept their word. Or I guess that Aaron Rodgers kind of kept his word, you know?
Yeah, that's cool. That's a good test of trust to lay the foundation of a season.
Yeah, there you go. So there we have it. We've got Rodgers going to the Steelers. They do have like everyone's calling it, there's going to be a revenge tour for Aaron Rodgers, because I think the first game of the season is against the Jets, who he played for the last 2 years. And the way that the Jets kind of kicked him to the curb with their new head coach, Aaron Glenn, who like Aaron Rodgers was clearly pissed about that. So they open up against the Jets. That's good. And then they play against like the Vikings, the Lions, and the Bears at some point in the season. So, and the Packers, I think. So all former division rivals of Aaron Rodgers and like teams that he kind of knows pretty well. So I don't know.
Do you think Aaron Rodgers and Mike Tomlin will be able to coexist peacefully, or do you think there'll be some
coexist, like a coexist bumper sticker?
No, not like
coexist. Coexist. I wonder, because they're both kind of sort of alpha guys, you know. And we were just talking about this big blow up on Twitter of a couple sort of alpha male type personality. I don't know. Sometimes things can kind of blow up, and like with Aaron Rodgers being such a veteran, will he be able to bend the knee to the authority of a coach like Mike Tomlin? Probably. Well, we'll see. And let's see that the Steelers end up at 9-8 or 10-7. Okay. NBA finals start tonight, but by the time people are watching this, the first game will have been played, but we're recording this on Thursday evening. So, Mike, give me your thoughts on this, because like we said a bunch on this podcast, so the two small market teams in the NBA finals. And this is from Jason McIntyre. This is on Colin Cowherd's show. This is his co-host, who, when Colin Cowherd is on vacation, this guy steps in and he's just like, kind of, you'll just see. You just see. Let's play a couple minutes of this.
He looks like a behind the scenes kind of guy.
Yeah, more of a All right, give me your take on this guy, who he's not. He says he's really not excited for the finals because of the cities that the teams are from. Here it is.
OKC, Indiana. I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but I'm not that excited for these NBA finals. You know, I joke that Colin is the elitist here on the show, but maybe it's me. Because, you know, if I were the NBA, I would have changed its motto to give me super teams or give me death. because that's what I like. I like superstars in the NBA Finals, and we don't really have that. We don't have dynasties. We got debuts, and that just isn't as sexy as what we've had here in the last, I don't know, quarter century. Folks, let's be real. When the NBA had super teams, this century, it was at the height of its popularity. I mean, come on. You put LeBron, Kevin Love, and Kyrie in the finals, that's a lot of pop. That's juice. I mean, Kyrie Irving, he had a movie, okay? Kevin Love was ascending in Minnesota. LeBron changed teams and became the villain in Miami. But you look at those super teams in Cleveland, Miami, hell, the greatest team ever assembled in NBA history. Yes, that's true. Steph Curry and Kevin Durant. Do you know how much excitement that was leading up to the finals? When you had all those stars gathered together? Hell, you could even go back to the Boston Celtics with our guy here, Paul Pierce, when he got Kevin Garnett gifted to him and Ray Allen going up against Kobe and Gasol in the finals. Folks, that was star wattage. Those finals were incredible. And I don't know about you, but I know the NBA loves, hey, we're about to have our 7th champion in 7 years. Hooray! Hooray for socialism in the NBA. Folks, I'm sorry, but think back to that Denver-Miami Heat series. You remember anything from that one? I had to ask the staff this morning, hey, how many games did that go? I don't remember it.
All right, you get the gist of this guy.
Yeah. Okay.
General, give me your vibe check on this guy, Mike.
Okay.
Here we go.
Before we even get to the content of his words, let's go after the appearance. So, looks like kind of more like a tech support kind of guy. Seems like a guy that would be behind the scenes. This is the guy that comes in and twists the knobs during the sound check and then says, all right, Colin, you're good. Let's roll. And then backs up and he has a headset and a clipboard. That's what he looks like. But he's filling in for Colin. So allows Colin to go on vacation. It's interesting because he steals his exact speaking cadence. He doesn't have an original speaking cadence at all. He just steals his exact rhythm, which, I mean, that's probably smart, but have some originality.
Sure.
Yeah. What do you think about this guy?
Okay, no, that's good. I like the twist the knobs and then step back. Yeah. I mean, I listen to the show sometimes, and I mean, just when Colin is in there, it's so much better when this guy Jason McIntyre steps in. Usually he like chimes in while Colin is mostly monologuing, and it's a much better program. So I'm not a huge fan. And I'm also not necessarily a huge fan of what he's saying right there. So the NBA, the NBA is going to have 7 champions in 7 different years. Is that not kind of cool? Like, that's kind of cool, isn't it?
Yeah, that's very cool. If you just have one dynasty team that's winning every year, where's the motivation in watching? Oh, they're going to win again. But I think that's, how could you think that that's not a good thing to spread that, not like you're choosing to spread, but that there's a natural spread of competition.
Yeah, I mean, how often do we hear like the fatigue of certain teams? It's like we had that with the something, and I don't know what the really the ratings were back in those times, but the general sentiment is like fatigue. It's also cool to see like young teams getting in there, and the NBA is in dire need, as we've talked about, of kind of new face of the league. And there's 2 guys in this finals, SGA and Tyrese Halliburton, who have like the potential to be one of those guys, kind of. Despite Tyrese Halliburton's father's antics, he's a while back in the stadium. Okay, so there's that this point on the small market teams, and then the NBA commissioner kind of responds to this. And first of all, the NBA commissioner just kind of, does he not? He looks like Lord of Voldemort, Adam Silver.
Wait, is it Adam Silver, right?
It's Adam Silver, and he just looks like Tom Riddle.
It's always a shock when he's on camera.
No matter how many times, it's always
like a lizard.
Oh, okay. Here's what he has to say.
Hey, Adam, you're going to be on camera today, all right? Yeah. I'll be fine.
All right. Give him a little makeup or something. No, okay. Here we go. Eyebrows down.
That's one thing I really admire about the NFL. I mean, if we were going into a Super Bowl and it was Packers against Steelers, you guys would be celebrating that. Those would be storied franchises. People wouldn't be talking about, the fact that Pittsburgh is a small market. So in fact, I'm happy whatever team ends up in the finals, but it's been intentional from our standpoint to create a system, a collective bargaining agreement that allows more teams to compete. And just by way of background, we're going to have to go through a process of getting to the point where people are accustomed to tuning into the finals because it's the two teams that deserve to be there, and it's the best basketball. Similar to, again, with the Super Bowl, if I asked somebody if they were going to watch the Super Bowl, they wouldn't say who's playing. It's a national holiday, and now that's nirvana.
That's the goal.
I'm not saying we're anywhere close to that yet. There's still, if the Knicks are in the finals, there's a segment of our fan base that's going to watch that may not watch if it's other teams. But my job is to get people to love and follow this game, and so that if you're a huge basketball fan, you should want to tune into the finals because that's the best basketball.
Okay, I think it's interesting when he says like, oh, if this was the Packers versus the Steelers in the Super Bowl, everybody would be really happy, like two small market teams in the Super Bowl. But it's interesting because I feel like the storied and historic franchises in the NFL, you have them like the Packers and the Steelers, who are small market teams, yet they have like this really impressive story and history, and like they're very traditional franchise. Whereas in the NBA, it feels like the storied and historical franchises are the Lakers, the Celtics, and like the Knicks, basically. So big, huge city, big market teams. So I don't like making the comparison there. I don't know if I really agree with that of like, oh, it's kind of the exact same thing, because no, look, I'm excited about having some of these small market teams in here for the NBA Finals, but you can't compare that to the Packers or the Steelers, like these franchises that go back and like are ingrained in the blood of American.
Yeah.
Culture. What do you think?
It's interesting. Like, I feel like it's not so much how big the market is or how big the city is. It's like how well it's marketed. Can you get people invested in the story? You have to sell a story of players, or sell a story of the team, or sell a story of the town.
Right.
And, you know, your fandom is not limited by location, within a certain diameter. What's it called?
Radius.
Certain radius of your stadium. Like, that's not, you're not trapped by the radius of your stadium within 50 miles as your fandom. There's fans all over the country and the world of different teams. Why? Because of the marketing, the story that's associated with the team. People identify so much more with the story or with guys on the team, and you have to sell that more so than if they live by. I don't know. I mean, no, there's something to that.
Think that is a great result. The constraint, it's so easy to say the constraint is the city size and the market of the city.
Yeah.
But that's not true. The constraint is the story of the team. And it just so happens that it's a little bit easier and more convenient to have a great story in a larger market.
Yeah.
But that's not actually that's actually not the bottleneck that we're talking about. That's a great point.
It's
because,
like, it's like I only drink Pepsi because I live by the Pepsi headquarters.
Yeah. No, that's silly.
I drink Pepsi because I like the ads that I see in the store. It's in all stores everywhere. You can buy jerseys all over. It's same type of thing.
That is I like that a lot. I like that quite a bit. That's the constraint, and that's what we need to be recognizing. It just so happens that some of these small, like the NFL has been able to create stories within small markets. The NBA, not so much yet. But maybe this NBA Finals is a chance for some of them to create stories. Okay, Mike, last thing I want to do real quickly, because next week we're doing a segment where we're drafting players for a bachelor party, okay, based on the personalities of these professional athletes. So we're going to do a draft of players that we would like to hang out with, okay, that would be invited on our respective bachelor parties. That's next week. But let's just do a quick little 5-minute segment here of a nightmare hangout, okay? And we're each going to pull 3 professional athletes, okay, from this draft board that I've got up here. Let me see if I can pull it up. Okay, one moment. Let me see. Tell me if you can see this.
Why does Adam Silver seem like a guy who's never dribbled a basketball in his life? And
I think because
he's never held a basketball.
I think that's an accurate representation, an accurate pick there. Okay,
like if you threw a basketball at him, he'd turn his shoulder like this. That's what Adam Silver looks like.
At least Roger Goodell looks like he played, outside linebacker in high school or something.
Yeah.
Okay, here we have a list of like 40 of the most famous athletes of all time, but also some exceptions, like for example Shedeur Sanders and some other that are just kind of modern day athletes. So, Mike, we're gonna go back and forth. We each get to pick 3 guys, and let me try and give you a little up and down here of this list. 3 guys to create the absolute worst possible hangout that you can. Okay. And you can kind of justify your picture. Do you want to go first? You want me to go first?
Wait, keep scrolling. I got 1 sec. I need 3.
Yeah. Okay.
And okay. Keep going.
Okay.
Keep going.
Oh,
okay, I got it.
You got yours?
Yeah.
Okay. Should we go back and forth, or do you want to just give all 3 and then explain your justification?
I'll just give all 3.
All right. Give us your worst weekend hangout ever with 3 athletes from this list, and then explain why.
Here's a curveball. Here's one that not a lot of people are going to understand right off the bat. When you first hear the name, you're going to think, "Oh, that's a party guy. I'd love to hang out with this guy."
Okay.
Number 1 is Johnny Manziel.
Okay.
Hear me out.
Yeah.
Once he starts drinking, all you're going to hear about is how good he could have been and how Texas A&M owes me so much money. Dude, I could have been so stupid. All this stuff. And he goes, I was just trying to get paid, man. Like, he's going to be the guy that's on
so
that
annoying
the whole time talking about it. He's not going to have fun.
That you're like, you try to avoid getting caught in after he's had like a bunch of drinks. He's like, dude, no, seriously.
Yeah. He's gonna drink and go down the shoulda, coulda, woulda alleyways instead of kind of like the happy optimism of life.
Okay. We got that. Manziel, nice.
Yeah. So that's a unique take. Lionel Messi. Seems like he's got nothing under the hood. Okay. He seems like, really good at soccer, but that's because he's weird and nobody wants to hang out with him. So all he could do is go kick a soccer ball because nobody invited him to any parties.
Okay. Messi, Manziel.
Number 2. I don't think he's got a lot of back and forth. And then number 3, wait, I just had it. Scroll down. Keep scrolling. Pause. Okay. I actually think I'd have a great time hanging out with Tim Tebow, but for the sake of this exercise, I'm going to say Tim Tebow because if he's at the party, you're just going to feel guilty the whole time. He's going to be judging you the whole day. He's going to have a glass of water and he's not going to have the wings. He's going to be eating beef jerky and just making silent judgment, but he's not going to say anything out loud. Yeah. So you're going to know in his head, he's just these guys.
You literally stole my exact 3. That is
really
because I would go, okay, Johnny Manziel, for obvious reasons, same reasons you said. Lionel Messi can't really speak English like very well. There's so many videos of him like within circles with his teammates at practice where he's just standing really awkwardly and then just like kind of just weird vibes. Okay. And then Tim Tebow, of course, for the thing. And also he would clash with Johnny Manziel, like big party guy, big not party guy. And then Lionel Messi in the middle there he has no charisma or social skills to sort of mediate that. So you did steal my exact one. Let me try and change it up just to then. Okay. Here's another version is Conor McGregor and Johnny Manziel together, I think they would both way too party. It would they'd probably fight. Okay. And it would just be so annoying. Neither one of them would shut up. And I'd get really, really annoyed. Okay. And then you could also throw Lionel Messi in between that one and he would have no effect, but just to sprinkle, this will add another layer of gasoline to the McGregor and Manziel. Shedeur Sanders.
Okay. That's good.
Johnny Manziel, Conor McGregor, Shedeur Sanders.
That's really
that
good.
Is my nightmare hangout because I'm trying to chill out. These guys are just going to ruin my vibe and they're going to get in a fight.
It's going to be just a whole day of people trying to talk over each other the whole time.
Yes. Everyone trying to talk over it. That's a great way of putting it. You know who could also fall in the same category as Lionel Messi? Of just like not bringing anything to it? Jared Goff. Just like you throw Jared, he's just like, what? Oh, buddy.
Yeah. But he seems like the guy that like, if you were at a party and you were sitting next to him on a couch, he could whisper some funny observations over. But if he's in a group setting, I don't think he has the ability to say something that slices through a room.
No, he can't cut through a room. It's that's a tough skill to be able to cut through a room, especially with those other big personalities in there.
Yeah. And part of the reason is that his arms have no definition. Okay.
Yeah.
So a lot of your social confidence in a circle of guys, your ability to make jokes stems from how big are your arms?
Yeah. It just gives you that
Yeah.
little boost right there. I think that this is the most fun game ever that we invented.
Yeah, this is really fun.
Okay, so next week then we're gonna do bachelor parties. And I'll get it set up so it's like a real draft so that we can actually pick back and forth. And we're gonna pick
cool.
we'll make it 6. We can each pick 6 guys for our bachelor party. And you choose your vibe of your bachelor party too. So it doesn't have to be like a party one. You can whatever you want. So we'll have that. And then we do it
Knitting.
next week. Knitting, fun. Okay. There we have it. Aaron Rodgers to the Steelers, as we all probably thought was going to happen. And our nightmare hangouts. Good stuff. All right, Mike.
That's so fun.
Yeah, that's a fun game. Start thinking long and hard over the weekend about who you want to invite to your hypothetical, theoretical bachelor party. Okay.
Okay.
All right, great. All right, everybody. Thank you for watching, and we will see you on the next one.